else to talk about. I was going to say more about this Riot no solo queue thing, but after all that shit, I kind of don't really care about it. It's an interesting idea. Essentially, now League of Legends has what they call dynamic queue. So they got rid of solo queue versus party queue. Now you just queue up. So you hop in with your friends, any number. If you queue as a 5v5, you'll most often be matched with another 5v5. If you're solo, I guess it's more likely that you get matched up with other solo people. But I guess the number is totally congealed now. So you have like just a dynamic MMR instead of a solo versus party. And people are really upset about it. You know, I with all this kind of stuff, I think people overreact to things. I think experimenting is good. I worry more about the opposite of, it's always risky when you make changes. I'll make a more macroscopic comment about this whole thing. I think when we're talking about esports and maintaining big growth, you have to take some risk. And as a developer, you have to change the game. Look at Dota, right? IceFrog adding items like Octarine Core, adding Spell Vamp and cooldown reduction, things like Aether Lens, Fairy Fire, all of these new items that, 2 years ago, if somebody had posted those concepts on Reddit, I think most people would say, it's fucking stupid. Yeah, we don't need that, right? But as you experiment, as you find new ways to implement stuff, that tone kind of changes. And you need to change the state of things to keep people interested. If there were no patches in Dota and it was just the same thing, people would stop playing over time. Like, that growth wouldn't be able to maintain itself. And League is the exact same scenario. Their game has had a huge foundation of players, and they've maintained really insane growth over the 5 or 6 year lifetime of the game. It's really impressive. And they're starting to hit a wall, right? There's only so many changes you can make within this format to keep it a MOBA before you start really changing fundamental aspects of the game. And League of Legends, I think, is ahead of Dota on this curve in terms of iterations. Like they've already, I wish I had more specific examples here, but they've already have the talent trees and all of this superfluous stuff outside of the gameplay. You look at Dota and it's mostly just like gameplay. You queue up for a game and it's focused in that arena. In League, there's all this extra stuff that you can do where you're building your talents and your runes and whatever the fuck, your summoner abilities, all this extra bullshit. So what else can they add before the game becomes like World of Warcraft, where there's like 30 professions, there's all these different races, and it's just overwhelming for a new person to come in because they weren't part of that slow growth. They just see this game that has all of these features dumped on it, and you don't know what to prioritize on. How do I choose a profession out of all of these? I don't know what's good anymore. So I think with that in mind, people should just be open-minded to experiments. Great example relative to Dota. I loved what Valve did with getting rid of AP and making it, Captain's Mode and random draft only for ranked for like a 3-day weekend. That is awesome. And we probably still haven't seen the fruits of their labor from that yet in terms of, I'm sure Valve was gathering a lot of data about the differences in that weekend versus normal ranked when AP is available in terms of, number of reports, complaints, active users, length of games, general feedback. There are a lot of correlations you can make between those game modes. Say, okay, so did this change make a difference? Is AP not fit for ranked? Should we get rid of these other modes and make it only AP? There are a lot of changes you can make to the basic structure of the game that keep it more interesting, It's all that opportunity cost. If you got rid of AP and made it only RD, a lot of people would be fucking pissed off and quit. And a lot of people would be like, this is awesome. This is the way my pubs should be. I'm so glad you made this change, right? The point is, you don't know until you try. And I don't think Riot should be necessarily blamed for trying something different. The dynamic group thing is bold. It could backfire. I don't fucking play the game, so I don't know how much it sucks or doesn't, like anecdotally. But I'm just speaking from generally speaking, I think it's really important that for esports to continue growing, developers continue to experiment and find interesting ways to engage the audience. I don't know if this is going to be a way to do that or a way to not do it, but hey, you got to give them some credit for trying. That's all I want to say about the duo queue thing. Something about it it chaps my ass a little bit to see the really fickle League of Legenders come in, and then they're just like, all right, Dota 2 subreddit, fuck Riot, they made a bad choice, I'm all in Dota. It's just like, listen, we all know that you're not all into Dota yet, okay? We all know what's going to happen. You're tired of League. You're going to queue up 3 games of Dota. You're going to get fucking slapped around and reported. You're going to cry a little bit and decide to go back to League of Legends for a while and deal with the dynamic queue. That's what 85% of you are going to do. And I don't fault you for it, okay? We've all been there. Maybe some of them will make the switch to Dota. So you got to plant those seeds, and then eventually the Dota seeds will blossom into trees, and the roots will take over those League of Legends roots that used to have hold of them. So, but it chaps my ass a little bit to see those knee jerk reactions like, oh my God, the game's over. It's like, all right, calm the fuck down. Are you really that nervous about your MMR? Like, what was going pro ever an option? Really? Like, come on, just fucking play some pubs, enjoy the goddamn game, go have a beer, go fuck yourself and calm down. Like we're a little too serious. It's like the 3.5K MMR people being really serious about MMR. Just like, no, this fucking matters. I'm like, dude, like you're ahead of the curve a little bit, but like, what do you, if you were actually good, you wouldn't be 3.5K. Why don't you just focus on sitting back and having some fun instead of being all uptight about pretending that you're going to be really good at this in the future? I digress. Anyway, you got to let it go and have some fun, folks. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my day. We got Canada Cup coming in about 6 hours' time. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Zyori Podcast.